I'm Chris from Play Comics, a show where we look at video games based on comic properties and how well they stick to that source material, a part of the Gonna Geek Network, just like the show you're checking out now. Shows on the network are individually owned, and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other astonishingly geeky shows at GonnaGeekNetwork.com.
Stand by for a brand new episode of All Things Good and Nerdy.
Hey everyone, welcome to All Things Good and Nerdy. I'm Chris, and I'm here with my fellow hosts, Willie Nelson, who'll be here in a second, he's running late, and Anthony Bachman. We're three guys who love talking about all things nerdy, from the latest news in the world of pop culture to our favorite video games and movies. We're also big fans of science fiction, fantasy, and horror. Yes, this sounds weird because I'm using an AI prompt to do it. Let's continue with the AI prompt coming from Google Bard, because this is hilarious. In this episode, we'll be talking about the latest news in the world of nerd culture, including the upcoming release of a new Star Wars movie, the latest season of Stranger Things, and the new video game Elden Ring. We'll also be sharing our thoughts on some of the latest movies and TV shows, including the new Batman movie, the new season of The Mandalorian, and the new series Moon Knight. We hope you enjoy the show. This was our introduction provided by Google's new AI tool that's in beta called Bard. I asked it simply, right next an introduction to All Things Good and Nerdy podcast, where I introduce myself, Chris, and my fellow hosts, Willie Nelson and Anthony Bachman. That's what we got. The AI overlords are not coming to take my job.
No, not yet, because it's about the AI is either drunk or about 8 months behind. I'm trying to think. I know last Stranger Things would be over a year now.
Yeah, so the first half I thought was okay. When it tried to talk about what we're promoting, I was like,
current events is a little off, but I mean, it's not wrong. There's always a new Batman movie. There's always a new Batman movie in the works. They're working on a new Batman movie right fucking now.
Now, that, like I said, that was Google's Google Bard tool. I also have ChatGPT, which I asked the same question, right? An introduction, same caveat. I like this one more, but I'll leave this open to the interpretation of our chat room and to you, Bachman. It was, welcome to the All Things Good and Nerdy podcast. My name is Chris, and I'm excited to be one of your hosts for this fun and engaging podcast. Joining me are my fellow nerdy and enthusiastic co-hosts, Willie Nelson, he's not here yet, and Anthony Bachman. Together, we are dedicated to exploring all things nerdy and geeky, from the latest comic book releases to the newest video games and everything in between. Whether you're a diehard fan or just dipping your toes in the world of nerddom, we have something for everyone. So sit back, relax, and get ready to geek out with us on the All Things Good and Nerdy podcast. That one's better.
that one's better because it doesn't try to dip into what it thought was current events, and so I think that helps a lot.
I think ChatGPT is still eating Google's lunch. Granted, Google Bard just went into beta like 3 days ago. I think I got the invite, but I was
it's like new.
Yeah, so ChatGPT's been available and used for quite a while now, so there's a bit of a competitive advantage. But I thought it would be fun to kind of throw things to our AI overlords and say, hey, you handle the introductions this week. You handle the segment transitions. So yes, this is going to be happening a couple more times throughout the show. And maybe this is my ego coming through a little bit. I kind of like my own intros better so far, but maybe it's because they're muscle memory and I've been doing the same intro for 500 plus episodes, basically.
Yeah, you get kind of used to doing something. You get used to doing it. You don't want to change. I mean, humans don't like change.
Change
like
sucks.
Keeping things the way things are. I don't know. My news of the week says change is not a bad thing. So, I mean, I got some good changes coming, and good updates and upgrades. And I don't know. We don't want to spoil it because the new Mandalorian episode just came out yesterday. But have you seen the redemption?
You mean the most recent episode? Yes.
Yes, there's a redemption of an actor.
Yes.
That is amazing.
We
don't have to say who it is or what they do, but letting that actor play that role.
So they took a character that was introduced in a YouTube show on the Star Wars Kids channel and made them canon. That's pretty cool.
Oh, was that where that character came from?
That's where that character came from. It's the same character.
Okay, because I knew he had done that.
Yeah.
I did not know if it was the same character.
I didn't make the connection either until someone else had brought it up, and I went, oh, son of a bitch. That is the same character.
Just, for that actor, after all the shit they took, to be given this role, I fucking love it. It's amazing. Like, Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, great fucking work, gentlemen. Like, it's fantastic, because that kid took so much shit.
Yeah, talking about the Mandalorian, we won't get into spoilers or anything like that, because we're killing a couple minutes till Willie gets here. I don't understand the heartburn some people have, which was, oh, Mandalorian, it didn't do enough last season. We need more world building. And then this season is all about world building. And people are like, I need more stories about just Din and Grogu. I don't care about this world building. I'm like, what the hell? I think people had an odd expectation, and myself included, that there was going to be more setup for potentially the Ahsoka series and things like that. Because a lot of us were kind of fantasy writing the script for season 3 in our minds. Oh, they could do this cool setup. They could introduce Sabine and Ahsoka, which then spins us off into that series by doing kind of like a backdoor pilot / intro in Mandalorian. And I don't know that that's necessarily what Favreau and Filoni intended. I think we're getting Tales of the New Republic featuring Din and Grogu.
Yeah, kind of. And I mean, yeah, because like we've heard complaints because me and Jan are huge fans of Ordinary Adventures, and Peter and Kitcher were complaining like, oh, it's, not much story happened in this. I was like, are you kidding? This episode was great. It moved a bunch of stuff forward. It gave you huge insights into like where Bo-Katan is as a character, what's going on with this freaking Children of the Watch clan and what they're actually building. Like, you get, additions to all sorts of stuff. You get, introductions of characters with badass names like Ragnar, and you get flashbacks to very important shit. Like, I don't know. 4 episodes in, I'm loving this season. Like, the other day, I was just sitting around reading, I was reading through the Warhammer Core rulebook. I was like, okay, I just need some background noise. I restarted season 3 and just started over again at episode 1, and we watched all 3 of them in a row again. Like, it's hugely entertaining. It's well done. We're getting character growth, and it is weird that they started off the show being like, oh, hey, I need this droid to do this. Oh, hey, I need to fix this droid. Oh, wait, now just whatever droid, and I'm going to go do this thing, and then go do the thing. And I think it's because people thought, like, Jin getting to Mandalore and, like, bathing in the waters, like, that was going to be the season finale.
Right.
It's like, no, he's a competent character. It doesn't take 10 episodes to get to a planet and do a thing. And so he did it in 3. It's like, yeah, just you have to change the way you're thinking. Because this isn't the setup for Endgame. This isn't something that's going to take 15 hours. He just has to fly to a planet, take a bath, everything's good. Like, that was his whole plan. Yeah, the fact that like that got done in 3 episodes, that's good. Now we can get on with some other storytelling and have more adventures. And see, armor upgrades, man. Armor upgrades, yeah. Good shit.
I'm excited for that. I have no idea why your camera froze just now.
I know, especially with that face. That's lovely. Good job, Willie. You broke my face.
Right in the kisser.
Mm-hmm. But at least I look excited, so I'm not like, picking my nose or sneezing or something, so.
I can put a solo screen if you want. There we go. It's back. It's back.
It's back on yours? Well, because on mine, you froze.
Yeah, well, it's all back for me, I think. I don't know if Willie's back. He could just be very still.
I am become death, destroyer of worlds.
Double check your mic
stream,
real quick if you get a chance, Willie.
God damn it.
Yes, so like I mentioned, Willie Nelson is joining us today. He is hopped on right now and is fighting Skype. And Willie, I'm sad to say you've missed part 1 of our testing our new AI overlords to see how well they can do at hosting the show. So far, not as good as us.
They tried, though.
They tried. We're using AI tools. We're using AI tools today to do the intro to the show and to transition to new segments. It'll be very interesting.
We're not supposed to be using AI before today?
No, we could. This was more
Chris
just an experiment to see how well it worked.
Yeah. He just made a point of doing it today and actually reading the intros from 2 different AIs. There we go. I increased and then minimized my Skype again and everything refreshed. So
it's amazing how well these things don't like to work for us at times. Isn't that right, Willie?
Kinda.
You're green right now. You don't have your typical white background up on your TV to backdrop.
Yeah, something happened.
Behind the scenes view, how Willie gets his illumination, if you all didn't know, is he pretty much brings up just a white YouTube video and puts it on his
He
TV.
was rewatching an episode of She-Hulk. That's why he was green.
That could be. Willie loved She-Hulk, I'm sure.
It was all right.
Yeah, I thought so.
It's
The ending was a
funny.
little weird, but I mean,
But it was in line with what the character does in the comics, so I was okay with it.
I don't know. I never
Yeah.
really read the character, so I
Yeah.
can't tell you.
the Dan Slott, like that show is like the Dan Slott, and it was the guy before him as well. Damn it, I can't think of who it was. It wasn't Claremont. It was another one that had a big run on She-Hulk that made her funny and let her talk to the audience. She-Hulk did that shit 20 years before Deadpool.
Yep.
And just a lot of people don't know it. But She-Hulk talked trash on the cover of her comic to people buying the comic. Like, the character's done that for so long. It's really good. But yeah, like, that show was fully, like, totally that character. The weird thing I'm finding is that, like, I've gone back and rewatched the movies. Like, I've watched Far From Home, like, 10 times. I still watch Homecoming, like, once a month. I think it's one of the greatest movies ever made. I just love that freaking movie. But I haven't gone back and rewatched any of the Marvel series on Disney Plus. I haven't watched Hawkeye again. I haven't watched Moon Knight. I haven't watched She-Hulk. I was super excited for all of them as they were coming out. I haven't felt the need to rewatch any of them.
I also feel the same way about the Marvel movies.
Some of them I can go back and rewatch. Some of them I don't care as much about. But I also think part
How
of
many
it
times have
is
you seen Eternals?
0.
Oh,
Twice.
Spicy.
I watched
That's
Eternals
a
twice.
Spicy take. Ask me how many times I've seen Ant-Man, Willie.
Which one?
The latest one.
Well, it's still in theaters.
Is it
so
0?
Once or
right
0?
now. I haven't made it yet.
Yeah, spicy.
I've seen it once.
In
The
our
real
pu-
question is,
in our
how many
end-
times have you watched or rewatched Shang-Chi?
I watched it once and then I've rewatched it once.
I
seen that about-
rewatched it 0.
I've rewatched it like 8 times. It's
I
one of
enjoy
my
it.
favorite movies. That movie, the sidekick not actually being a sidekick, just being a secondary character that's actually funny, was done so well with Awkwafina in that movie that that's what the secondary character needs to be in like all the superhero movies. If they're gonna have a secondary character, instead of making them just a sidekick that does 2 lines, her character was great through that whole film. Which is weird to say of a person that calls himself Awkwafina.
Right. My problem with stuff right now is there's just so much stuff I want to watch. I haven't really had much time for rewatching of things.
Fair enough.
I mean, that's where I am on it right now. I want to go see Ant-Man. We just haven't been able to make it to the theater to do so. Partially because we haven't been going to the theater as much in our current state of whatever the pandemic is for folks, but also my wife's got some back issues going on right now, so sitting in a movie theater chair for 3 hours, including previews, isn't necessarily feasible for us. I think we're going to try and make it to John Wick this weekend, but that'll be an interesting trial to see how well that goes for her.
Really? Every theater around me claims to have reclining chairs.
Only one of ours does, and it's just a matter of how she can get comfortable because of the nature of it's like a combination of sciatica and a bulging disc, so she's not enjoying sitting very much.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I would say if you do go to a reclining one, sit in like the 4th or 5th row.
Yep.
Because you're already looking like this, so you might as well look at the screen like this and be relaxed.
The theater we're going to has the reclining heated seats, so she's going to recline it all the way and put the heat to max.
That's what we've been doing. We go to the Cinemark, and if we can, in the bigger theaters, when it's the full-size ones, we go to the 3rd row. And then, you just recline all the way back, and you're basically looking straight up at the screen. And then that way...
And comfortably.
True.
You're comfortable. You're not craning your neck. And then, in that 3rd row or 4th row, depending on the theater, if it's where the walkway is and then the handicap seats, you don't have people right behind you. So there's nobody kicking your chair.
It's fair.
Yeah. Weirdly, with all the movies coming out this week and last week, and it's kind of shocking to me what we saw last night was 65. Like, Scream 6 is out. Shazam's out. John Wick's coming. Like, there's so many good movies in the theater right now. All, I'm interested in, but we decided to go see Adam Driver fight dinosaurs last night.
Shazam not doing so good by all accounts, it appears.
It's not.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
Shazam's out. 65's out.
Yeah,
John Wick
65.
starts this Friday.
Was it called 65 or was it something else?
The movie's actually called 65. It's short for 65 million years.
The reviews of John Wick look really good. Like, it's the highest rated in reviews so far out of the series. I'm like, how the hell does that happen? Where the further you go, the better they get.
Yeah. I listened to one of the guys on Slash Film, and he said it's insane because it's almost 3 hours.
Nice.
He said, but it's also, the whole film is basically 6 action sequences. And the last action sequence, once it kicks in, is the last hour of the film. It's like, so basically they did like their ode to like, this is the greatest homage of action sequences these guys could ever think of and do. And they decided to put it at the end of the fourth film. And yeah, every review I've heard of it says that it's great. The action is fantastic. And of course, now the film is, dedicated to Lance Riddick, who was in all 4 movies and sadly passed away on the press tour. But yeah, like supposedly it is. I've heard nothing but good things about it, and yeah, and I've heard sad things about Shazam, which makes me sad because I love the first Shazam so much, and I'm hearing the bad part is that they made this one darker and grittier. It's like, no, and stop adding the words dark and gritty to DC.
The Rock does not come out looking very good in some stories we've heard about Black Adam and Shazam right now either.
Yeah.
So there's some interesting stuff. I wasn't really going to delve into it. I didn't have that set up for my news. If we have time, we can get into it. But it's very interesting, some of the stuff coming out about The Rock vetoing, for instance, a Zachary Levi cameo in Black Adam. He didn't want it, wouldn't let it happen. And I guess Zach Levi's subtweeting about it now and stuff like that. So there's drama. We've got drama.
What's sad is that James Gunn and Pete Safran basically left it kind of open-ended that Shazam could be part of the new DCU, which I think was going to be dependent on how well this film did in theaters. And because it's not doing well, like it's not tanking, but like it's not doing as well as expected, the odds are this probably will be the last time we see this version of Shazam. So when we get our reset in Flashpoint, Zach Levi and crew may be out, which kind of sucks because I love the first Shazam.
I'm not trying to crap on Shazam 2 or Shazam or anything like that. It's more a product of their marketing. They never did enough to make me be like, oh my God, I have to watch this. I saw some trailers and went, oh yeah, I forgot they were doing a sequel to this, but nothing there really hooked me. Even their attempt to use Gal Gadot didn't really work. Like, oh my God, I got to watch this. Because like the week it came out, they started advertising her cameo in the trailers and commercials they put out.
Which
and I was like,
if anything is worse. Ooh. Yeah. Yeah. Don't advertise something like, let the crowd find out about it on opening night and then let word of mouth spread that you need to go see this because there's a great cameo in it.
But they did the same thing with the Superman stuff too in Black Adam, didn't they? Like after a week of the movie being out, they started advertising his post-credits appearance where as much as he showed up in the damn commercial was almost as much as he was in the movie.
Well, and yeah, and the Rock spoiled it, I think, 2 weeks before the movie premiered. Yeah, on his Instagram. Yeah, he said that Superman showed up. So it's like, well, it's one thing, like, I hate when trailer companies cut a trailer and ruin a film. Because you've seen movies where you're like, wow, I already saw all of this in the trailer. I didn't need to pay to see the film. But, like, for, like, the stars or someone else involved to spoil something that they were finally able to keep under wraps in the marketing that they didn't ruin. It's like, hey, I'm about to go see this movie, and then you check Twitter, and here's the actor in it going, oh, this happens, haha. Like, come on. Like, quit ruining shit.
Yeah, fuck you, Mark Ruffalo, for spoiling shit in interviews.
Well, no, Ruffalo's worst mistake, which is still funny to this day, was accidentally Instagram living like the first 10 minutes of Thor Ragnarok because he left his phone running a live feed in his pocket.
No. To be honest, there's a huge difference between what Mark Ruffalo and Tom Holland have done versus like what Dwayne Johnson did, telling people basically straight up that the Superman was in there. He's doing that shit intentionally. Tom Holland and Mark Ruffalo just can't keep a secret. And they were also filming so many multiple films in a row. I think both those actors were really just confused on what the audience did or didn't know. Because they're filming something like they filmed Endgame and Infinity War at the same time. So there's so many scenes that they shot, they don't even know what movie the scene's going to be in. And so, yeah, at that point, those actors are just confused and they're tired.
That's
like,
fair.
The Rock was in his gym straight up looking at the camera going, yeah, basically Superman shows up.
Well, The Rock was doing it to get people to go watch the movie so they could have a massive box office and then
that's a
effectively
very
turn the DCU into focusing on Black Adam and Superman.
Yeah,
it didn't work.
I feel no ill will to Tom Holland and Mark Ruffalo because they're just tired actors that forget what people know, and that's why they have to be given scripts with the wrong information because they can't be trusted.
And I'm a tired podcaster that forgets what people know. It's
true.
true. It's damn true.
Well, you know what? I know what I know, if you know what I mean.
But you don't know what you don't know, which is the problem.
But you know what I know? I know that it's time to go to the news of the week.
Live from the ATGN studios on the internet, It's the news of the week.
Hey everyone, welcome to the News of the Week segment of All Things Good and Nerdy. I'm Chris, and I'm here with my fellow hosts Willie Nelson and Anthony Bachman. In this segment, we'll be recapping the latest nerdy news that we find interesting. We'll be talking about everything from the latest movie trailers to the latest video game releases. This intro is courtesy of Google's AI tool called Google Bard. This was not the normal one we use. Like I said, we're throwing these AI tools out there, seeing if they can replace us when it comes to being the brains of things. I may also have one from ChatGPT to figure out if we like theirs better. So let's pretend we just transition back in, and we'll do a second intro to figure out which AI mastermind you all prefer. Welcome to the News of the Week, where we bring you the latest and greatest in nerdy news. Every week, we'll be recapping the most interesting and exciting developments from the world of pop culture, science, technology, and more. From the latest comic book releases to the most innovative new gadgets, we've got you covered. Our team of dedicated nerds scour the internet to bring you the most relevant and fascinating news of the week, so you don't have to. So sit back, grab your favorite snack, and join us as we dive into the most exciting developments in the world of nerd culture. That one is courtesy of ChatGPT.
I was wondering.
I
Where
feel like
did you get this from? I forgot you talked about the AI thing. The AI is making me forget it's a thing.
That's exactly right. You've been brainwashed.
Under AI attack. I just expect to start hearing ack.
So
I thought I was going to start hearing Roger.
So comparing the two again, I like ChatGPT's better than Google Bard's. But again, not fair. Google Bard just hit beta like this week for people to use.
So it's the battle of the AI.
We're battling AIs today, and ChatGPT is up 2-0.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
So when it came to our
with AI, we all lose.
When it came to the actual intros for the show, I didn't like either of them. But I think they could be decent starting points if we wanted to redo our own intro to kind of use those as a starting point and shift them. When it comes to the intro for the News of the Week, I actually kind of like the ChatGPT one. I just think it's too long. The second one I did.
Yeah, just need to trim it a little bit.
Yeah.
And it could actually work. Yeah, it's not awful. Yeah, Will, you missed the original intro ones were the Bard one went too hard into trying to do current events, and It was about 9 months behind schedule.
It claimed we were talking about Stranger Things in a new Star Wars movie today.
Yeah. So it was a little
always
behind.
Like a new Star Wars movie getting talked about at some point in time.
It's fair. It also said we were talking about Elden Ring, which we haven't talked about in forever.
Yeah, we're not. There's no chance of us talking about Elden Ring, and it's been over a year since there was a new Stranger Things, so that was a bit outdated. But other than that, it actually was pretty good.
Did the AI say anything about go woke, go broke?
It did not.
Not yet, anyway.
Fucking weird AI.
So my hopes is we've got potentially 2 more segments. I just need to do the AI prompts to get them to write out their stuff before we close out the show. But like I mentioned, we are in the News of the Week. This is the part of the show where we share with you guys what is in our minds some of the most interesting geeky and or nerdy news to have popped up here in the last week or so. And we geek out about it. I lost my muscle memory on introducing News of the Week. I realized halfway through because I did 2 intros already.
The AI has affected you.
The AI has contaminated my brain. Who wants to kick us off? Who wants to kick us off this week for News of the Week?
I can do a little quick one if you want me to.
Willie, why don't you do a quick one for us?
Give it to Willie.
So a new game just came out Tuesday, and I did try the beta for it. Was it 2 weeks ago? I think. For Deceive Inc. It is primarily a battle royale that is objective based, where you are a spy trying to infiltrate a base and steal a briefcase and then extract out. That is your main objective. There are solo matches and teams of 3 that you can work with. So 3 people in total. When you start out the match, it'll automatically hologram you to look like a random NPC civilian that is all around you. There's a bunch of NPCs all around, and you can switch to any of them by holding square on the PlayStation, whatever equivalence that is on the Xbox. Is that Y? The left button? or I guess I'm reversed. So the left button.
So, say again.
That's Y,
Sorry.
right? The square button. That'd be like instead of top, bottom.
Top button is Y. Bottom button is A. B is the right button. X is the left button for the
So
Xbox.
it's X I'm
It's
talking
X.
about. I guess it's mixed up on the Switch where X is the top and Y is the. But you know what I mean. Yeah. Anyway, you can hold that button down to pretty much look like anyone else. There's a couple of different rooms that are locked off. They're all color coded with service people, people who like maids and and food people. You can switch into them. They're always like a lime green color. And you also have to get intel, hack intel, these computers that are all over the place with different amounts of intel. You use that as currency to break into doors, break into safes, to upgrade your character, and to get further in, to pretty much break in to get the briefcase. It starts out where there's 4 locations on your map with switches to open the main vault to get to the case. And every team's trying to get to those. Only 3 of the 4 actually have a switch to enter in. So you're trying to hide out from the other people, trying to blend in, act like you're an NPC, so they don't find you. And they're also doing the same to you. Here's the little special kicker, though. Whenever you're walking around, like wherever way you're heading, that's where your hologram's looking, no matter what. So you could look behind you and keep walking backwards. Your hologram looks like it's walking forward, but you're looking behind you with your gun aimed, looking at, like, making sure someone's following you or not. That's a little thing. There's a bunch of gadgets. It's like a very big spoof on, like, of course, James Bond and whatnot, and just super spy shit. But so far it's been fun. The main game came out Tuesday. It's only $20 if you're interested.
That's not bad.
Yeah. To be fully honest, I see this game probably going the way of Knockout City, lasting maybe two years. Knockout City was a fun game, though. I didn't have any problems with it, but I mean, I pretty much see it kind of going that way. I still paid my $20. I'm gonna have a fun ride for it. I hope it does better, but that's just how I see it, because it seems kind of similar in scope to it, but it's still a fun game.
What
And like I said, you also
what does it feel like you're playing like?
it's a first-person view. I should have said that. Yeah, it's a first-person view.
Shooter. So it feels like a first-person shooter.
Yeah, but you're mostly like just grabbing intel. You some of the gadgets you get, at least some of the ones I've seen so far. You start off with like this little inflatable thing. It's like a bit like a little cube. You throw it out. You press L2. It inflates big. If you're over it, it'll like make you bounce up high so you can get up to areas, or it will block doors from if you're running away from someone, so they can't go through.
Nice.
I'm not sure if they can shoot it and destroy it though. Don't know. I never actually thought about doing that. But there's also like a little spyglass. Looks like a little compact little binocular thing that you can actually hack intel from a far distance and safes. So that's pretty cool. Been doing that so I can come up to them naturally without people. Oh, you can also hack doors with it too, so people can't tell. Guard rooms are very important in the game, so it's very important to find a guard fast to look like them, because if you're in a guard room or a service room and you're a civilian, the service people or guards will be like, hey, you don't belong here, get out of here, and your cover will get blown.
Okay.
So,
They
but if you're one of the
recognize you.
guards, that's all right. Even if you look like exactly one that's in there, it doesn't. As long as that's all that matters, is that you look like a guard. Because a lot of the NPCs do look similar to each other, but that's kind of how it works. And I have not won a game yet. I got so close. I killed the person who got the briefcase, got it from them, and I got to an extraction, and then all of a sudden, like 3 or 4 other spies came in when I was in the extraction. It was a sad day.
Sounds interesting, though.
How
Oh,
much
it
like
was
Among
fun.
Us, where you play with like 8 people?
I'm sorry?
Is this like Among Us where it's like 8 people playing at the same time?
No, I'm not sure how many can be in a match. I think it's like 12 or 16. I think.
Oh wow, okay.
I never really counted them, so I'm not exactly sure. I'm assuming. Well, what would be right? 12, maybe 12. That'd be 3 teams of 4 or 4 teams of 3 people. So that kind of makes sense.
All right, so that's a lot of players.
Yeah. Yeah, Deceive Inc. It's not that bad. It also has a multitude of characters that you can be, each with their different weapons and different abilities and different passives. And they all have 3 variations of each of those.
And it appears, just looking at this, came out in November. It is available on PS5, Xbox Series consoles, and Windows.
That is wrong because it just came out Tuesday.
Maybe it was PC it came out on then. I don't know. Initial release date says November 2022 on the Google search.
I knew there was an open beta, and I was surprised
Maybe that's
I
what
even
it was.
saw it. Yeah, it was an open beta like 2-3 weeks ago, and I was like, I'm glad I saw this. Let me try this free beta.
I just
think this is pretty fun. I like this.
Yeah, I think they're wrong because Steam says March 21st release, so I think the Google data is incorrect.
Well, March 21st is technically the day it did come out.
Right, but then earlier it said November.
Yeah, I know,
the
they get a
Google
little wonky with stuff like that.
Yeah, whatever. Sounds interesting. I'm going to watch some trailers of it after, or some gameplay footage. I think it might be worth taking a spin on.
It looks like you can get it everywhere. It's on Steam, Epic, PlayStation, and Xbox stores. So,
and I've been having a fun time with it. I'm not gonna lie.
Excellent.
But like I said, I don't expect greatness out of this. I'm having a fun time. But like I said, Knockout City's still going, but it's on its dying leg because the servers are shutting down sometime soon coming up. I can't remember when. But Deceive Inc. I mean, I'm hoping for better. It's fun. I forget the character I choose. I can't remember his name. He is, but his like R1 ability, he goes invisible for a little bit, and you can run away, kind of to be safe to get cover back up.
And it's got like a 70s, Shaft, James Bond vibe to the art style.
Oh yeah, it's very fun, and the mechanics do work. Like I've never seen anything where like, well, that shouldn't be like that.
So it's not breaking on it.
Nah.
Nice.
That's cool. Well, we'll move on to the next story here. I'll take this one. And as we record this, it is March 23rd, 2023. We are officially 4 days away from the closure of the WiiU and 3DS eShops. Were you guys aware of that one?
Not at all. I never had a WiiU.
Well,
I need to get my 3DS back, my buddy.
A Wii, yeah, exactly. So the shops are closing down. Nintendo made the decision. It's cost-saving measure. I think it was announced a while back, but I saw an interesting article which then led me down a YouTube rabbit hole. But why I wanted to bring this up is when you come to an archiving standpoint for things, when these stores go away, you can't buy the games new anymore. It becomes problematic. Now, Nintendo has said if you have purchased these games, you will continue to be able to re-download them after the fact, but as of the 27th, you will no longer be able to purchase digital games via the marketplaces established for the Wii U and the 3DS. Why do I bring this up? Well, here's an example for you of why it's potentially problematic. Say you really want to play Legend of Zelda Wind Waker. It's available digitally right now. You can get it on Wii U. Yeah, as of the 27th, you won't be able to play it anymore. You won't be able to buy it anymore. It won't be commercially available for any Nintendo consoles after that.
Yeah, that's not good.
Does that mean you can't use any codes to like if you bought something and it came with the code to download?
My understanding from what I read of this is if you have not purchased or redeemed the code by the time the store closes, you will no longer be able to do so. If you have previously purchased or redeemed a code, you will retain the ability to be able to download those games to your Wii U or 3DS console. So why did I bring this up and what was the rabbit hole I fell down? There's a YouTuber by the name of The Completionist. If you follow gaming YouTube, you're probably familiar with them.
Gerard What is his last?
I always forget too. He was also on G4 when they relaunched G4 this most
He was
recent
on.
time too.
Oh, re-released.
The
Okay.
re-released. So the completionist went and tried to make it so that he would have the complete library of Wii U and 3DS games. It took him 328 days total before he was able to purchase and download the entire library of Wii U and 3DS games. If I encourage you to go watch the video, he ran into issues where he wanted to buy eShop credit basically to be able to do it, and they started buying gift cards for themselves. Eventually their credit card got shut down because they were buying too many gift cards and they had to try and do things. They ran into hurdles where Nintendo would only let you have $250 worth of credit in your wallet at a time. So there was no way to go past that point of having $250 worth of credit. They ran into some other issues with some games where they were also getting the DLC and season pass content. Some of the DLC was not downloadable for games until you reach a certain play point in the game, where it then prompts you to get the DLC on some of these 3DS games. So there was some
downloadable.
Yes, so there were some like Mario games I think they referenced in the video where you had to play like half the game before it would then give them a prompt to download the DLC. There was no other way to do it. So they ran into some difficulty doing it. And this YouTube video covers the 328 days it took for them to redeem all the cards, go to the eShop, purchase the games, download the games because they didn't want just a license, they wanted to have a copy, put that game on either the internal storage of their Wii U or on external storage they bought to migrate the data off so that they'd be able to have a local copy in case everything went wrong. And this came out to, here's the statistics, 866 Wii U games purchased, 1,547 3DS titles. This includes DSiWare, the Virtual Console releases, and downloadable content. This was 1.2 terabytes of data for the Wii U and 267 gigabytes of data for the 3DS. And if you're a 3DS purist who's used to thinking in blocks, it's 2.1 million blocks worth of games. That's how they categorized that storage in there. They continue. Kotaku has a good sum up. I encourage you to go watch the video itself. It's embedded in the article shared in our show notes. Over 460 eShop cards were used to do all the purchasing. They spent a total of $22,791 to purchase the entire library digitally of Wii U and 3DS games. So you're probably wondering, they just spent this much money. What's the plan of what he's going to do with all of these games that he's downloaded now that he has them? Well, in the video, he said at the end, he's donating everything he downloaded to the Video Game History Foundation so that they'll be able to have the copies of it. Traditionally, they've only dealt with physical media since digital games present legal challenges. So what happens to everything he downloaded is still kind of uncertain because of what are your rights when you download software. You have a license for yourself, but if you decide to basically pick up that hard drive and hand it over to, in this case, Video Game History Foundation, do the rights that you had extend over towards them for preservation purposes? Technically, it doesn't in today's world, it seems like. And this takes us back to that problem we have again of we have no good way to preserve video game history in old games. I thought it was fascinating.
Especially for the ones that are all digital,
Right. I thought this was fascinating, though, how painful the process was to download all of these games. Now, arguably, it's probably gotten better with the Switch in comparison, although I don't buy that many games for me to know. I will say that downloading and purchasing games on Xbox and Sony's PlayStation, I haven't had that much difficulty with. But remember, Nintendo's systems for online anything are always a pain in the ass.
Yeah. How many hours did they say it took them?
It took them almost a full year to be able to do it. I don't think they broke it down into hours, but when you go and watch the video, some of the things he points out is, like I mentioned, you can only have $250 worth of money in your wallet. You have to download all of the games locally before it considers it, before they can move it over to other places. And then some games had their DLC locked behind gameplay where you had to play a certain amount of the game before you could get to downloading the DLC.
That part is just strange. Yeah, that you would buy DLC, but you can't download it until you reach a certain percentage of game played.
Well, it's like expansion pack content or something like that, and it was just an odd implementation for how they did it. Now, remember,
Nintendo for you.
It's the Wii U and the 3DS, so When did they stop making the Wii U? 2015, 2016? Was that what it was? Maybe a little before that?
Somewhere around there, yeah.
So we're talking about a
It's-
console that's not been publishing new content for 8 years ish.
Yeah, they usually kill off consoles when a new one comes out.
Oh, and in the YouTube thumbnail, he breaks it down based off how much he paid per system. It was a little over $9,500 on Wii U games and a little over $13,000 on 3DS games.
about $22,000 worth of video games to
Twen-
give to an archiving system.
Yes, and to make a YouTube video out of it too.
And who knows if
Yeah.
it's even legal.
Well, him owning those games and having them linked to his account is legal. Handing it over to the archiving folks, that's where things become questionable, and that's where.
That's what I was
Yeah,
mentioning.
and I'm just clarifying for those that might be tuning in late or in midstream
Fair
or something
enough.
like that.
You're right.
We need to be clear, though, that him purchasing and offloading these games into his own external storage is perfectly fine for him by the terms of service established in the Nintendo eShop.
Yeah, it's the handing them off whether or not the like licensing agreement transfers, right?
I mean, arguably it doesn't because of how it's set up and everything's linked to his Nintendo account or his eShop account.
Did he make a whole new account just for this, I wonder?
I don't remember. I think they talked about the logistics of having to put everything under one account and how that was kind of a pain in the ass in the video, but I don't remember the details. It's like a 30-minute long video that details the entire process of doing it. It's fascinating. It's really interesting. And then at the end, you're like, oh man, other than making the YouTube video, it might kind of be in vain just because of the legalities of things, which is disappointing.
Hope they don't do this for the Switch because that's going to be.
Well, I mean, look,
There's so much shovelware on there.
look at
much.
Nintendo's history on these things, though, which is the stores go away for the Wii shop, the Wii U shop, the 3DS shop, just so they can resell you the same game again on the new console.
Yeah.
Because that's the difference here is a lot of these games you could buy digitally, especially like these indie things, on the Xbox were forward compatible, on the PlayStation have been forward compatible, things like that. So we haven't necessarily been looking at, well, if I want to play Zelda on my console, an old Zelda, I have to buy it 3 times over for me able to play it on my modern console.
Yeah, because I mean, honestly, I just finished watching the Last of Us TV show. I'd been meaning to play the game because I'd never actually played it. I just fired it up after I finished God of War Ragnarok the other day. And of course, what I knew was going to happen, there's a brand new version of The Last of Us remastered on PlayStation 5. They're trying to sell a $90 version of that game. I didn't buy that. I fired up my Last of Us remastered PlayStation 4 version from my hard drive on my PS5 that was free on the PS4 as one of my monthly games, and I'm playing that. So yeah, that I can just play that without having to rebuy it.
I mean, that's always been the difference in how Nintendo's done stuff in this current generation of stuff. Is once we got past the point of being able to put a Wii disc into a Wii U, it kind of went away.
Try that. Yes, I don't think I ever even owned a GameCube. I think the 64 is the last Nintendo I bought.
Give credit to the Wii. You could play GameCube games on it too, which was awesome.
Yeah.
Could you do that on the Wii U? I don't remember.
I think you could. Wait, GameCube or Wii?
GameCube. I know you could play Wii games on there.
I mean, hold on a second. I got to Google my fingertips.
Willie's got the Google machine. He's going to look into it.
Because yeah, I mean yeah, backwards compatibility with Nintendo has never been a thing. Like it's something like
Well, it
they've
has,
almost
but,
never.
but not when it came to their marketplaces. Like their physical stuff, you were able
They
to
always
do
just want to
so
resell
in
Yeah.
modern stuff. But and again, we've gone down this path before. It's not like we had backwards compatibility when you went from the NES to the SNES and the SNES
Yeah.
to the N64. It's not necessarily that this is new that you haven't been able to go back and play those things. But once we got that taste of being able to have backwards compatibility, it kind of became an expectation. And once you start getting into the world of digital games where everyone has a license and there's not really a great way to archive it, it's potentially problematic. Now, like, for instance, I mentioned Wind Waker as my example. It's not like we'll never be able to play Wind Waker. I'm sure that the Foundation has physical copies of Wind Waker and Wii's and GameCubes and stuff that will play them. That's fine. But there's going to be some 3DS specific stuff, I'm sure, and some Wii U specific stuff that may never have had a physical release. In which case, There's no great way for it to have been archived.
So in the case of is the GameCube the grandparent to the Wii U, we have found out you are not the father. You cannot play GameCube games on Wii U.
Okay, I couldn't remember if that had stayed in place or not on it.
All right, Maury.
And I do think when they did one of the hardware revisions of the Wii and they put out like that red one that didn't have the slot loading drive, that was like a top loader, that was no longer GameCube backwards compatible as well. It was like that bright red and black Wii that they put out.
Top loader.
Yeah, it was a top loader. Like it literally had like an eject button and the top of it flipped up and you put your CD in, like old school CD player.
I remember seeing pictures of it. Is that how it worked?
Yeah, I believe so.
Oh, yeah. Because I remember the little button on the corner now. It was like the whole, like the little triangle piece.
Because they took the slot loader
I
out because
remember.
that was more expensive. So that was when they made their most economical version of the Wii that they could. And like it retailed, I think it was retailing for cheap. I don't remember how cheap, to be honest, though. I don't know. Fascinating stuff. Reading articles like this gives me a bit more of appreciation. I'm not fanboying. It's going to sound like it, but gives me appreciation for the backwards compatibility initiative that Microsoft did for a lot of their older Xbox games. By far, not all Xbox games, but there are a good chunk of original Xbox games that came out in 2001 that you can just pop the disc in your current gen Xbox and play. Yes, it is downloading software and emulating it locally, but you can just pick it up and play. That's cool.
Which is cool. Yeah.
You can digitally download those games. Like I can go and buy for $5 the Xbox original release of KOTOR and play it on my Xbox Series X right now.
Well, aren't you just a fucking special boy?
Well, no, I'm just saying that's the difference in how things are approaching. Sony's doing similar stuff where older games are accessible via. They've got that weird hiccup with the PlayStation 3 where emulation's pain because of the architecture.
The cell
of the PS3.
processor.
Right. And they were doing cloud streaming to kind of fill that gap for a while, but Sony has also got a fair chunk of stuff that's backwards compatible. Now the question is, and this is for all the vendors, when we get to our PS6 and whatever the hell we're going to call the Xbox and the Switch 2 or whatnot, are they going to be able to play the previous generations of games? Don't know. We don't know. At some point, it may be deemed cost prohibitive to be backwards compatible, and they just decide not to do it. We don't know when it'll happen, and that's when this whole concept of game preservation comes back into play again.
You know what I say to that?
What's that?
Just fucking make it work. You got the money. Just fucking make it work. Throw money at the problem till it fixes itself.
Well, I think we're starting to see how Microsoft could potentially do that, but it still doesn't alleviate the issue in regards to archiving, because if Microsoft, say, goes under 20 years from now, all these games they've set up that you can cloud stream, that they do all the archiving and the streaming from their data center on, if Microsoft goes away, what happens to them? They're gone at that point in time. Now, do I think Microsoft's going to fold? Arguably not. They're arguably too big to fail, and not because of their gaming business, but because of all the other things they're hooked into: Windows, Office, Azure Cloud, and things like that.
But I keep hearing that Bill Gates is the Antichrist. Like, what's with all that? I always hear that.
You know, there is that.
You need to filter your social media then.
I don't know. I thought this whole thing was fascinating. I greatly encourage you, if you're interested in checking out the video as we've referenced it, if you go to bit.ly/ATGN519, that'll take you directly to the show notes that we keep in Google Docs. You can click on the link in there that takes you to the article on Kotaku, which has the completionist video embedded within. Check it out for yourself. It's a really good watch. That said, that's it for my news. I'm going to toss things over to Bachman.
All right, we got some big doings. So, this will be important in a moment. I think I'm the only one here who has done any type of dive into Warhammer. Is that correct?
Yes, I've played one of the video games, I think.
Okay.
I think I played the very beginning of Space Hulk, and that's about it. I think that's one of them, isn't it?
Yeah. And then, back in the day, I had done the Warhammer Online, which was their kind of answer to World of Warcraft, where you actually played, it was, kind of all the different factions in a big open MMO RPG world. And that was my only experience up to it until recently. Started getting into the minis, started buying characters, started painting them, and, $50 for like the main rule book. And then it's a $50-$60 hardcover book for every sub faction. So like if you want to play Chaos Space Marines, there's a $50 book for Chaos Space Marines. There's a $50 book for Chaos Space Knights and the $50 main book. So like I went, Chris, you were not on mute.
You're doing great, Chris. We've all done it. We've all done
I'm
it.
on mute to the stream, just not you guys. My
Okay.
bad.
Well,
Shit.
that was awesome. But yeah, so like to read the rule book, like the regular just old school Warhammer core rules, like I printed these 25 pages and just, read them off of this because it's easier than, you can get the free PDF online. They have the same for the Age of Sigmar, which is their new fantasy version. So like Age of Sigmar is in version 3, Warhammer's in version 9. And like I was talking about, like this is one I got for sale at a store just because honestly, I really wanted the artwork. So Imperial Knights are the giant robot walkers in Warhammer. So these are like normally $50 books. I got this one on clearance for $15. So I picked it up because it's got all the rules for all the knights and it's got all this cool artwork on them. Really, really cool stuff. Why this is important is because yesterday at Adepticon, which is basically the San Diego Comic-Con version of Warhammer, this is their big thing where, big news comes out. Yesterday they went so far as they started a new hashtag called #New40K. They are releasing the 10th edition of Warhammer after 35 years. They have now hit version 10. So the 10th edition is coming out. They have restructured the rules, the data sheets. So for every mini, for every guy like this, for every little Space Marine, you have a data sheet that says what he can do, what his abilities are, what his stats are. And then for every group, so if you've got 10 of these Space Marines, you've got a unit, you got a sheet for your combat sheet that tells you what that unit can do, what their special abilities are, all of that stuff. And so you have these giant books, and you have these kids, going to play Warhammer, these tournaments, and they're carrying 10 books with them because they've got so many different specialized units in their army that you have to have the reference to say what you're doing. And so it's awesome. It's in depth. It's also kind of convoluted. And so lucky for me, being someone who's just started Warhammer, I haven't actually really dove deep into the 9th edition. They're doing all brand new stuff. They released a new trailer yesterday for the brand new video. The new 10th edition is going to be the onstart of a new war with the Tyranids, which is, so it's Space Marines versus the new Leviathan fleet, which they thought they'd beat in the last kind of like storyline lore part. We're now getting the 4th Tyranid War. It's the largest invasion of basically kind of Xeno, like the the aliens from Aliens mixed with the bugs from what the hell is it called? Rico and the Roughnecks. Starship Troopers, yeah. So mix those two bugs together, you kind of get the Tyranids, the big giant insects. So they're coming. They released a new trailer for it. And you've got new images of the updated Primarchs, updated figures for these characters, updated Terminator armor, brand new edition of the rules are coming out. And the most important thing that they mentioned is that today, as those rules are hitting the shelves, they're not in books. They're free.
Ooh.
Online.
Awesome.
So you can download the brand new rules. They went back and they shortened the stack. So they said for every figure, for every mini, the rules that control that mini will fit on a data card now, no matter what. They will not be so convoluted that they can't fit on one card. And the rules for any one unit will fit on one sheet of paper. So they're like some Age of Sigmar figures that are awesome. But some of the armies have access to battle scrolls where you have 36 different spells you can choose from. And so we know when stuff like that gets that way, it's like Dead by Daylight, Willie knows. There's 80 some odd perks. Nobody uses in that game. Because there's like 115 total, and there's maybe 30 that people use and 20 that are really popular. But 80 of them are just kind of taking up space. And so the Warhammer community and game shop went back and they just stripped everything down. I haven't actually read the new rules yet, so I'm just going off of what I've heard and what I've seen in the videos and stuff. But it sounds awesome because they said basically they stripped everything down to its basics. And where if you used to have 15 options and they knew people were only using 3, they've stripped that down to where everybody's got like 2 of those options. and the third will be part of your specialized group. So they've made it to where base abilities have been kind of expanded, and they've also taken away a lot of the restrictions where you had to have certain units. Anytime you were building a 2,000-point army, you had to have this guy and this guy and this guy and this guy, and you had to have those or you couldn't play by the rules. And so the new rules now are going to say, hey, if you just want to have 2,000 points worth of Space Marines, go for it. You have 2,000 points worth of Space Marines. You don't have to have a librarian. You don't have to have a tank. They're like, you just build what you want and play with it. And so they've gone back. They've streamlined the rules. They said they went over the rules for every single character in Warhammer. So every miniature has been reviewed and redone, and the rules for every team have been reviewed and redone. And with the launch of the 10th edition, that's why they're actually calling it #new40K. Every single data sheet is new. Every single data card for a mini is new. And they put out these new artwork, new lore videos. The lore videos are awesome. If you go to the Warhammer website, Reboot Gilliman is this badass Space Marine. He's the leader of the Ultramarines, which is the ones that most people are used to seeing, the big blue guys. And he's got the giant golden halo, and like he's just this massive beefy boy. And it's him basically talking trash about what's happening with this new Tyranid invasion. As the universe is burning, they're telling everybody they're winning, but they're actually losing. Awesome video. It shows all this great combat, shows the new updated Tyranid models. It shows the new Terminator order for the Space Marines. It just looks gorgeous. And then today they've also released, who is it? It's the Lion. Yeah, so Lion L. Johnson is one of the Primarchs. The Primarchs are the leaders of each group of the 20 different groups of the Space Marines. And the images I've seen online, see if I do a screen share here. The one with the original version of Lionel Johnson, people said looked kind of like Dog the Bounty Hunter. So like it was not. Is the screen share up, Chris? I can't tell.
I mean, it is, but I can't share that on the feed out.
Okay, you can't share it? Okay.
It's just a black screen showing up for us, though, that you're sharing. It's very odd.
Wait, is it there now?
There we go.
Okay. So the original Lionel Johnson kind of looked like Dog the Bounty Hunter. He had kind of like a yellow mullet going on, was not a great figure. The new one, people are saying, looks kind of like the leader of the Lannisters in Game of Thrones, like his new armor. It looks like Doom. Like it looks like Doom with like gold lions on his armor. Like this new figure looks just badass. And like
he has Jawas.
Yeah, and he's got like little Jawas. Like one's literally carrying the scabbard for his sword. The other one's got like a little banner, and a staff. And yeah, stepping over somebody's corpse. Like it's just a badass minion. Like if you compare this to the old one, like you can see where like, I mean, it's not 35 years worth of updating in one mini, but if you look at the old mini versus this one, like it's a huge difference. And this new one just looks gorgeous. And yeah, they put out new Terminators. They got the new Lionel Johnson. It's all for, the new Terminators look fantastic. It's basically a Terminator is like the bigger version of a Space Marine. So it's a Space Marine and even larger armor. So like the guys with the giant auto cannons, the giant rocket launchers. And then, the Tyranids themselves got new updates. So you've got the Xenos bugs. They used to have like these crazy buck teeth that everybody kind of made fun of because they looked weird. And now they look more like, cloven hooved, like running raptors almost that are mixed with bugs. Like it's just all these awesome updates all happening at once. And so as the week goes on, apparently at Adepticon, they're just going to keep dropping more news. But it was awesome to see. Like, I'm super excited because having just started getting into Warhammer and I haven't actually played my first match yet, I know now that I can just take the Chaos Space Marines that I've got in this box. And like, once I'm done, putting these guys together and, painting them, like I can actually just play with what's in this box. I don't have to have a specific set of anything. All the combat patrols now will just work. So there's all these different boxes you can buy with a combat patrol. And once you build a combat patrol, you can just play combat patrol versus combat patrol. And all the new rules will work for that, which is awesome because you don't have to build a 2,000-point army before you play your first match. Because like that box has 19 miniatures in it. That's a 500-point army. So I'd have to do roughly 80 miniatures to turn that into 2,000 points if I bought 4 of those boxes. And that box wasn't cheap. So, the idea of having to start...
None of the Warhammer stuff is cheap.
I've
learned from my friends that play.
If you're cheap, don't get into Warhammer.
Don't get into miniatures, basically.
Unless you also have a 3D printer. Wink, wink.
I'm looking at that too, because the idea, some of the stuff you can 3D print. Oh, I'm gonna get me a 3D printer eventually. It's just a question of what I'm gonna print with it. But
your own stuff that you designed.
Yeah, but you can.
There are people that legitimately sell designs too. You can buy plans for.
And you can do versions of stuff that looks like a Chaos Space Marine that you could play as a Chaos Space Marine, where you pay $3 for the mini that you built versus $35, $65 for the same, size character, the same amount of plastic. Like, some of them are outrageous.
I mean, I also wager you could just go on Etsy and find a bunch of people selling plans or 3D printed ones too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I found there's a bunch of files. I mean, I don't have a 3D printer yet or the type of software to run one. But yeah, there's people selling files for like $1 to $10. And then, hey, you download it and you can print it as many times as you want. You pay like, $3-5 for their file. And they've already designed, a mini that looks good and paints well. And, will work on whatever printer you're using. So yeah, it's a huge thing to get into. But yeah, it's just, the cost of the minis kind of sucks, but at least the new minis do look awesome. So they've done a great update there. They've done a great update in the artwork, the style. The new lore cinematic is so cool. Like, I sit there and I watched it 3 times in a row yesterday just because it's just badass watching, these giant space marines fighting these huge bugs, which was kind of fitting with the movie I watched last night too. It kind of went hand in hand. Giant creatures versus, people with laser guns. But the fact that, it does kind of suck that if you're getting into it, like, it was very convoluted. Like, there's to read these 25 pages of rules, like, it took me like 2 days to get through this. And I have a pretty good understanding of how Warhammer works now, because I've also watched a couple of videos, but like, it's still it's still sitting in my head, like, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons 2nd edition, until you actually do it. Like, it's a little hard getting through all of the minutia of it, the 9 different phases that happen in every combat round. Like, it's kind of crazy. And so I'm excited to see, more streamlined rules, stuff that will hopefully make things easier, stuff that lets people jump into it simpler. And of course, kids that want to play this now, you can buy a combat patrol box, build those 19 miniatures, and go play. You don't have to buy a $60 handbook. You don't have to buy, because they say they're still going to do data cards. So, like, you'll be able to buy the cards if you want for your characters, but you don't have to. They will be available online. And they'll probably still do the books, but you're not going to have to buy them. It's all going to be, basically all the rules are going to be available to download on the website, which that's just awesome. Taking part of the cost out of playing a game, I think, is a cool thing. Now, where this goes after, 10th edition's around for a couple years and we get the 11th edition, who knows? Maybe they go back and say, hey, we streamlined it too much. We need to add some stuff back in. Because, course correcting is always a thing, especially this game's been around 35 years. Like, a massive change like this, there's probably going to be a ton of people that hate it. Lucky for me, I haven't actually played Warhammer yet, so I can't really say that I'm going to like or dislike it. I assume that less rules means I'm going to have more fun the first time I play. So was already looking forward to it. I'm now more looking forward to it. But yeah, even if you just want to see a badass cinematic, just go check out the Warhammer webpage and look at the new lore video, and it's just freaking cool. These giant dudes in these Terminator space armors holding up, mini guns and just like mowing down these huge, crazy insect raptor bug things. Like, it's badass. The company that does their cinematics for them, or whoever does the cinematics at Games Workshop, they make cool looking videos. And it's not long too. Like, the new cinematic, I think, is like 4 minutes. But then, basically everything in the new cinematic, they already have the new minis ready for. And so they started adding pictures of those. And there's a combat patrol now available for, what is it? There's like 16, 20 different ones. So there's 20 different boxes that you can buy, like the one I've got for my Chaos Space Marines, that's a combat patrol. And basically, if you buy that box, whether it's Adeptus Mechanicus or Chaos Space Marines or Salamander Space Marines or Chaos Demons or the Ultramarines themselves, the straight Blue Boys, the Smurfs, the Eldari, the Tau, whoever, if you buy that box, you can now just build those, paint them, play with them. You don't have to get anything extra, and you'll be able to download the rules, which I think that part is just super cool because they're making the game more accessible to more people, which, as Warhammer, I don't know if it's getting bigger because, to me, I've just kind of gotten into it. So to me, it seems huge now where it's something new and I'm discovering all this lore. I'm listening to podcasts. I'm watching videos. There's so much shit to learn. It's like trying to catch up on 70 years worth of comics. all at the same time. Like, it's a lot. But I'm also enjoying it, and it's really fun. But you got Henry Cavill out there saying he's going to help them make the new Warhammer Cinematic Universe. So that starts popping off, and we get a movie pretty soon starring The Witcher and Superman. Like, a lot of people are going to have their eyes on Warhammer pretty soon. That probably a lot more than they've been used to. Which the game's probably going to take another big uptick. Games Workshop starts making more money. They start making more minis. So the more money they're making, the more updates, more increase, the more they're paying the artists to redesign stuff and update figures and make new figures. It's going to be fun.
It is cool.
Yeah, and so yeah, all of this leads to the new 40K, which is the hashtag. If you go on Twitter and just look at hashtag NEW40K, like, there's so much stuff out there for all the new minis, the new trailers, the new artwork, and then people talking about like the new rule changes and stuff yet, which later today I'll probably go through and actually read all of see what they have on there for the new rules. It's all supposed to be in place by this summer because they just released a couple of like new books for I can't remember what it was, a new attack thing they were doing. It was like a mission setup thing that was pretty cool. But yeah, now all the rules are going to be available online, which I'm super stoked because I was looking at buying like 3 or 4 different books that were $60 a pop. It's like, ugh, that's a lot of money on top of the figures and the paints I'm buying. And now, well, I ain't got to spend the money on the rule books anymore.
Now you can spend it on figures.
That's more figures. It's more paints. It's more minis. Hell yeah.
I'm sure they make more money on that than they do on books.
Probably in the long run.
I imagine the margins are better on the figures than they are on the books.
Yeah, I mean, you can only cheap out on a book so much where, a piece of plastic, like, you got to figure Games Workshop probably has the best way to bait the cheapest plastic when they're putting stuff on a sprue and, mass producing all these little dudes. Yeah, they spend about 13 cents on plastic and probably 20 cents on production, and then charge $65 for the character once they put it in a box and ship it to the
plus
ship
shipping
it to the US. Yeah, so I mean, it's it ain't cheap. Yeah, like Willie said, it's not if you PO or you cheap, this is not a thing to get into. Though I mean, some of the books are good too. Like I'm on my second Warhammer book. I'm playing the video game Tacticus on my tablet. Like I'm deep diving into all things Warhammer right now and just having a fucking blast.
I've thought it was fascinating, and I've watched folks play at my local store before, but if I thought the X-Wing miniature game was cost prohibitive, how much it was costing per unit and stuff like that. I saw the Warhammer cost plus the time sink for getting them painted out right and things like that. I went, well, this would be fun. I'm not sure I want to dedicate the time and the investment into that. And I mean, also, I learned my lesson a bit with, well, I should have learned my lesson sooner, but I've learned my lesson with things like HeroClix, the X-Wing miniature game, and stuff like that, where I was really enjoying it. And then they changed the rules to basically make all of my old stuff outdated, so I'd buy the new stuff. And I was like, why do I do this to myself?
Yeah, and I did hear about that. One of the people that were talking about with the new rules coming out for Warhammer, and it was actually something, I think it might have been something Bricky said, which one of the hosts on Adeptus Ridiculous, where they just talk about all the lore of Warhammer. And he said, I've got like this old army that I love that I don't play anymore because right now they currently suck in like the meta, like a certain version of these group of orcs or these group of Tau or these group of Eldari. He's like, the cool thing about Warhammer though is keep those figures around. And wait, and 2 editions from now, that army might be badass again.
Right.
So one of the things that they do when they adjust the rules is that no matter what minis you have, like, I mean, this guy I painted to look like a Blood Angel, which is a specific version of a Space Marine. If I need to, because I don't have enough minis, when I'm playing my Chaos Space Marines, I could just put him on the table and tell the person I'm playing with, hey, that guy's actually just one of my other Chaos Space Marines. He's not a Blood Angel. He just looks like one. And so as long as you have the minis, you can play with the minis as long as, the person you're playing with agrees with it. Because, especially if you're not at a tournament, it's house rules. And it's basically, and then people play by, they say, what is it? The rule is what you see is what you get. So this mini has a blaster and a grenade on him. So as long as I don't try to say that this guy's using a chainsword, which he does not have, then I'm playing with what I have. He just, I painted him a little different. Okay, so he looks like a Blood Angel. So what? He's standing next to a bunch of red guys. I just call them all Chaos Space Marines. It works. And so, yeah, you can keep the minis aren't quite as like HeroClix where it was very much like they're like, oh, like that thing doesn't work anymore that mini did. It's like, well, that kind of sucks.
Or we change how it works. I mean, because the most frustrating thing for me is I'd gotten really hard into HeroClix. I'd played a bunch of it. I'd gotten some really cool clicks. Like one of them, my favorite one was like the House of M Magneto, which was a badass, had really cool abilities. And then they put out this new wave, and it was, oh, you can play your old stuff, but then you started looking at the new stuff that came out, and it made my House of M Magneto like not powerful in comparison to like common stuff that was coming out. And I was like, oh, so you made it so I could still play it, but I buy the new stuff and it's better. And I was like, no, I'm not getting into buying bricks of hero clicks again so I can try and build things up just in time for you to change how it works. And X-Wing the miniature game wasn't as bad for that, but then they had to do like this whole refit system when they decided to change how the meta works, so your old ships could work with the new ships they were introducing and stuff like that. And I was like, no, I'm not getting into this point again.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of the upside of, I mean, Games Workshop being around for 35 years, and this being the 10th edition of Warhammer that they're going into. They've probably experienced a lot of feedback on that, probably when they went to edition 2 or 3 or 4 back in the 80s. And so they're, from everything I've heard, they're really good at, all your minis can always be played. It's just a question of how powerful they are with whatever the new rules are. So it's never a game where, like, that new Lionel Johnson, that new mini is awesome, but you can use the same rules for him if you had the old mini. So buying the new mini doesn't make your guy better. He's going to have the same exact stat sheet as the mini that they put out 10 years ago of the same figure. So if you have the old one, you've already painted him, you can still play with him, and you're going to be playing by the exact same rules as someone who just bought the brand new $65 mini and painted it, and hey, that looks badass. But those two minis play exactly the same. They have the same rule sheet. They have the same data sheet. Their abilities, their stats are all the exact same. It's just a question of which one looks cooler.
They're
and
variants.
So, they're kind of like variants. As they update a figure, you're basically getting a variant on it. And yeah, especially like if you go back and look at some of the old minis, like the amount of detail is so bad on some of them compared to what they're doing now with 3D printers and these little plastic molds on these tiny guys with these insane amount of details. Like it's nuts what they can get on a miniature now versus what they could do, probably doing the shit basically, in giant presses back in the 80s. And so, yeah, it's cool. But yeah, it's good that, there's nothing in Warhammer that's designed to be like, hey, if you just go buy the newest army, you'll win. It's like, no, you may still get your ass kicked. And a lot of it is, yours will look cool if you paint them cool. And also it's one of those things too, where in Warhammer, there's no real rules about how you paint them. I could paint all of my Chaos Space Marines green and purple if I want to. Then that's my Chaos Space Marines.
Yeah.
You just call them a sub-chapter, and okay, this is the Joker chapter of the Chaos Space Marines, and they're all purple and green. Okay. And there's no rule against that, which is kind of cool.
That's what was cool with the X-Wing stuff, is like they gave them, they were all pre-painted, but you could customize the paint jobs on them and stuff if you wanted. There was nothing against that. It's like my TIE Interceptors, for instance, I painted the blood stripes on for one of the infamous TIE Interceptor squadrons that Baron Fell led and stuff like that. And other people had weathered their Millennium Falcons differently. And then they did like you could swap out the radar dish in the Millennium Falcon so you could have the Force Awakens version radar dish if you wanted and stuff like that. There was cool little meta and things like that that folks could do in it. And I really enjoyed it. I just didn't want to keep going down that path. I knew where it was going, and I got out when I got out. The ships still look really cool. Fantasy Flight's made a fun game. I just don't want to see how it evolves into sucking more of my money away.
Yeah, they had some cool looking ships. I almost bought a couple of those a couple times when I saw some on clearance. I was like, I'm not going to play the game. I don't need to buy more miniatures for a game I'm not playing. I still got I got a drawer of, it was a HeroClix knockoff that was a fantasy version of it. Mm-hmm. And at some point we put them all on clearance at Captain, to the point where I think I ended up buying 60 figures for like $12. And they're still in the plastic. I haven't even opened them. But there's stuff now I might pull out and paint just because I can paint them.
Right.
But yeah, it's a game I never played, and I bought 60 figures for a game I'm never going to play, and that was going out of business because not enough people were playing it. It's well, why am I spending money on this?
Yep.
And now I can spend all that money on Warhammer.
There you go. Problem solved.
Exactly.
On that note, we are going to start shutting things down. But before we do, you know what's happening here. We have our final segment of the show called What I'm Into. And for that, we'll toss things back to our AI overlords to see how they want to introduce it to you. That's right. This is the final one. I'm not going to do the outro with them because I'm lazy. Hey everyone, welcome to the What I'm Into segment of the All Things Good and Nerdy podcast. I'm Chris, and I'm here with my fellow co-hosts, Willie Nelson and Anthony Bachman. In this segment, we'll be sharing the geeky and nerdy things we've been getting into for the last week. We'll be talking about anything from the latest books we've read to the latest video games we've played, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. That is courtesy of Google's AI called Bard, their tool. I also asked ChatGPT the same thing for how to introduce this segment. It is a bit longer as ChatGPT seems to be, but as per the ChatGPT overlord, here's how we'll introduce the segment. Welcome to What I'm Into, where we share the latest and greatest in all things nerdy and geeky that we've been exploring over the past week. From new TV shows and movies to the latest video games and comic book releases, we'll be sharing our thoughts and opinions on the things we have that have captured our imaginations and kept us entertained. Each week, we'll take turns sharing what we've been up to, discussing our favorite moments, characters, and storylines. Whether you're looking for a new recommendation or just curious to see what we've been geeking out over, this is the segment for you. So without further ado, let's dive into what I'm into. ChatGPT's is better, but it's still too wordy.
Yeah, it has a good flow to it, though.
Yeah. ChatGPT's better at doing these kind of things. Now, side note, and I guess I'll do what I'm into. I've been playing with AI stuff. I'll go first. I'll talk about it. What's actually kind of useful for some of these things is if there's like a super long article or something like that, you can often say, summarize this and post a link, and it can shorten it down to about a paragraph with, hey, here's the major things that are discussed in here and some bullet points and things like that. That's helpful. That being said, you also have to trust that it is doing it the right way, so don't take it as the gospel. I did it just playing around with it to see how it compared to my reading the article myself and whether I think it would hit the key points. And for the most part, it did. But say, for instance, that News of the Week I did on the completionist doing the entire game catalog for WiiU and 3DS, I asked it to summarize that article for me, and all it did was summarize the closure of the eShops, and here's all the ways you can buy games, and here's the recommendations for doing it. It didn't touch at all on the fact that it cost the guy $20,000+ to be able to do it, the time-intensive features and things like that.
So it focused on like one area?
Yeah. It's not perfect. I mean, but there's interesting stuff you can do with it. I've played around with a little bit. I think ChatGPT is smarter. At one point in time, I asked it, who's the podcaster Chris Farrell? It was able to give me some info. I think I threw it in our group chat a couple weeks back when I was doing that. Who's the podcaster Anthony Bachman? Willie, you having the same name as a musician, it confused the shit out of it.
Yeah,
it couldn't figure out who you were.
Good luck finding me.
Right, and that was the problem. Is it wasn't able to come up with anything on that. I even put it to Willie D. Nelson, and it gave me kind of this typical text it has of, well, I don't know all people. This isn't someone I know. So there's limitations there. I think there's interesting things though with, hey, help me get my packing list for vacation, and you can use that as a starting point. There's really weird applications for AI tools and things like that. I am not one of those people that think it's going to come and replace us and start writing programming, doing code for everything and writing articles and stuff like that. There's some sites that are starting to use ChatGPT to like write news articles, and it's generally noticeable.
What I'm wondering is how far is it from a student being able to go write me a 4-page article on Moby Dick?
So here's an interesting one that I've seen some teachers are doing is there's tools out there now to tell when students have been cheating. And South Park actually did a whole episode where it was talking about AI tools and things like that. And the whole concept was Cartman originally starts using it to cheat at school because it's an easy way to do it, which then turns into Craig finds out he can use it to text his girlfriend so he doesn't have to think about things to say to his girlfriend. So he literally copies and pastes things out of ChatGPT. Then Stan starts using it, and everything gets all fucked up. It's typical South Park. There's this witch hunt to figure out, oh my God, who's using ChatGPT to do their homework, blah, 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 blah. And at the same time, Mr. Garrison's using it to get out of grading papers. So he's not invested in getting caught. And it all turns out that eventually this guy who's on the witch hunt to find it notices that it is Wendy Testerberger's phone that is full of ChatGPT kind of text because Stan has been texting her. And literally how they get out of this episode is Stan says, I need to figure out how to get out of this situation. And then they animate what ChatGPT said. And that's how they end the show is they use the AI to write out the episode. And then the writer's credits are Trey Parker and ChatGPT. because they're making fun of it.
We use the chat TGP to destroy the chat GP.
I mean, I thought it was pretty funny. It was pretty well done. And in typical South Park manner, they kind of poke fun at the fact that people are way overhyping what this can do at this point in time. It was a funny episode. There's other folks that have done stuff with the chat clients, but I think by far the most interesting I've seen, you talked about people using it to write papers, is there's Chat GPT and other tools. They don't get everything right, and people don't often check it to figure that out. So I've seen some stuff where high school teachers and things like that, history classes and stuff, use Chat GPT to generate an essay and then go to their students and say, this is factually wrong, you need to correct it. And they're using it that way to get their students to have to learn.
Use it in the reverse as a teaching tool.
Right.
That's
and
cool.
I thought that was intriguing, and that was really cool, because then it's, oh, well, some of this is right, but not all of it, and I've got to figure it out myself. And it's a different approach to just regurgitate everything you know about the American Revolution or something like that.
Yeah, go through here and figure out what is correct and what is wrong.
Yeah.
It just makes me wonder, because I mean they've got to have something now where teachers can like take a paper, scan it, and say, okay, was this written by a person or by AI?
There's people selling tools to sell to schools right now that do that. I mean, that's what's going on. That's the new business right now is, oh, you're worried about piracy? Here, buy my tool where you can put your student's paper in there and we'll make sure it's not coming out of an AI tool. Yeah. So they're interesting. I've been playing with it. Chat GPT, anyone can use, but in moments where it's getting hit pretty hard, unless you have a paid account, you can't access it. Microsoft has partnered with them. They've integrated it into the Bing website and into the Edge browser, I believe. Google just launched their Bard AI tool this week, and they've been sending out invites to get in on the beta. So if you want to play with it, go and play with it. It's fun, but don't treat it as like the gospel truth of how to do things. I also think one of the other cool things I saw was on Good Mythical Morning. They did a thing where they said, hey, we're going to have kids come up with a recipe and we're going to prepare it, and we're going to have the AI come up with a recipe of something to make, and then we're going to prepare it. And they were then tasked with, okay, here's the dish. You guys need to figure out if a kid or AI made it. And that was kind of interesting.
Nice.
There's interesting applications. Just have fun with it. Don't treat it like it's going to change the world as we know it, like some people are. So I've been getting into playing with that. Still playing Tales of Symphonia's remaster. I'm up to 36 hours into it. And I probably am on the back quarter of the game right now. I enjoy it. I love the hell out of that game. It is flawed on the Switch, more flawed than on other consoles, and it's a terrible port / remaster. But goddamn if I don't love that game anytime I pick it up and play it. I'm hoping Bandai eventually patches it, but who knows. Been getting into watching Ted Lasso. Ted Lasso's returned, so my Apple TV Plus I picked up again. So I watched the first 2 episodes of that. I'll be watching some other stuff on Apple TV Plus while I have it, because as soon as Ted Lasso's over, that subscription goes away. Star Trek Picard Season 3. I have not watched the most recent episode, but because that just came out today. I love it. It's everything I wanted originally out of Star Trek Picard, because they've brought back the entire cast of Next Generation, basically. They've brought back characters you haven't seen since 1994, and they've put them on screen and given you resolution as to what's happened with them. And
Nice.
It brought back an actor that was in Battlestar Galactica to a Star Trek role I hadn't seen them in forever, and I was like, holy shit, this is so cool. And it came out of nowhere, and I wasn't expecting it. It was great. It was
Yeah,
great.
for you visual watchers, I think my cat just went through a Stargate.
I think they did too. So Star Trek Picard Season 3 is really good. I've heard the episode that's on today is also really good, and is the return of LeVar Burton. And you all know I love me
Nice.
some LeVar Burton. And I think it's really cool that in the story, Geordie LaForge has 2 daughters. Both daughters appear in the show, but today we're introduced to the daughter that is played by LeVar Burton's daughter. So he's getting to act alongside his daughter, who's playing his daughter in Star Trek Picard. That's got to be really cool for him.
Oh, that's cool. So one of his daughters is playing the daughter of Geordie LaForge?
Right.
That's fucking awesome.
Just take a look. He's not in a book. It's on your screen.
With his cyborg eyes.
And the introduction of Todd Stashwick's Captain Liam Shaw character is fantastic in Star Trek Picard Season 3. He is quite possibly my favorite new Star Trek character they've introduced in all of this stuff. He's great, and the actor who plays him is incredible. 2 episodes ago, you find out that part of his distaste for Jean-Luc Picard is he was at the Battle of Wolf 359. He survived the Battle of Wolf 359. For those that are unaware, that's when the Borg came in and basically just destroyed 26 Starfleet ships to go and destroy Earth when they assimilated Captain Picard. And he was an ensign in an engine room at that point in time, and he survived.
Oh, shit.
And part of his distaste for Picard is what happened there and all the fallout for it. And he has a very good monologue where he expresses his displeasure, and then he kind of wraps up with, but what do I know? I'm just some dipshit from Chicago, and it's kind of a funny moment, too.
And this is what, the season 3, right?
Season 3, and let's put it this way. You don't really have to watch season 1 and 2 of Star Trek Picard to know what's going on, because there's only two characters from Star Trek Picard season 1 and 2 that remain in the show from the original cast. One of which is Jerry Ryan's 7 of 9.
I was going to say 7 of 9, right? Because I watched season 1.
Yeah, 7 of 9, and then Rafi is also still on the show, and she is working with Worf right now, which is kind of fun.
Oh, I was thinking of a different Rafi.
Not Rafi
no
from the
dogs.
League. No pocket dogs.
No pocket dogs.
No Rafi
Yeah,
bombs.
I
Or
do
second.
get-
Are you seeing this shit? I'm
got
getting
a
high on it.
I did get a glimpse of on one of the trailers where I just saw, Michael Dorn like in full makeup but with white hair. It's like, okay, I'm interested just to see old man Worf. Like, that just sounds like a cool concept.
Worf is introduced into the show, and arguably his most badass fight scene he's ever had with a sword, and he decapitates people.
Wait, with a sword or with the
With a sword.
batleth?
Not a batleth. A sword.
Oh, okay. Fight with an actual sword, huh?
Fighting
All
with,
right.
well, a Klingon sword, so it's weird and angular looking, but he,
Okay,
he uses it to behead people. And then we also met a Vulcan gangster last week, portrayed by, I'm forgetting the guy's name all of a sudden, but he
was Richard Dragon on Arrow, right?
Yeah, he was the dragon on Arrow.
Yep.
And
I can't
he's
think
a
of his name
Vulcan
either.
gangster.
He's awesome. I love that.
Oh,
guy.
and he's great as the utterly logical Vulcan gangster who says, well, there's always going to be crime. Logically, we need to control how crime is managed.
and make some money
and
off.
stuff like that. It's really good. Picard season 3 is really good. And minor spoiler for those that haven't seen this week's episode, all I know is they go to the ship museum, and supposedly we get to see modern special effects renditions of ships that have been retired in the museum. So things like the Enterprise A, the USS Voyager, and things like that we have not seen updated special effects of at all in this run. So I am very excited to see that. And there is a lot of fan prediction that we'll get to see in some way, shape, or form the return of the Enterprise D. The only thing I know about that is they have their own official Instagram account where they've been like dropping knowledge bombs and stuff about things that have been going out and like showing computer files from it. Is that it is canon in the Star Trek universe that the saucer section of the Enterprise D was recovered from Viridian 3 and taken to the Fleet Museum. So in theory, we could see at least a return to the saucer of the Enterprise D, which I want to see because the Enterprise D is my favorite ship in all Star Trek.
You want the D.
Everybody wants the D, Willie.
Chris wants the D. His name is Kirk Acevedo.
That's it, Kirk Acevedo.
Yeah.
He's a
that
really
dude's
good actor.
Awesome. He's
So that-
been in so much good stuff.
That's out. Yeah, Wednesday has become like my go-to TV day, I've realized, because I get off work, I go watch The Mandalorian, then I cook dinner, my wife and I watch Ted Lasso, and by the time dinner's done, I watch AEW Dynamite, and then I go to bed. So I get 3 awesome shows knocked out, and of
Nice.
course, Dynamite continues to kick ass. Last night was a fantastic match between, I can't say the guy's name, but it's basically a Mexican wrestler who calls himself a Viking, and Kenny Omega, that was postponed from December 2021 because of COVID and injuries. And they had a fantastic match they gave away on free TV last night. Just incredible
Nice.
stuff. Incredible stuff. Kenny Omega is the best wrestler in the world right now. Still is. 39, 40 years old, and he does stuff that's incredible out there. I can't believe it. Yeah. The Terminator himself. That's what I've been getting into, though. Let me transition things. Mr. Bachman, what you been getting into?
Let's see. Yeah, last night we went out. We saw Adam Driver fight dinosaurs. Watched 65, which was nice, entertaining movie. Of all the stuff in the theater, it's weird that I find it strange. I didn't go see Shazam. I didn't go see Scream 6. I went and saw 65. But yeah, we enjoyed it. It was fun. You kind of can see most of it coming as you're watching the movie. Like you can kind of figure out what's going to happen. But it was still entertaining. It was done really well. Some of the tech he's got is kind of cool. Some of the tech he uses makes you kind of leave the movie with questions. But it's an entertainment movie. It's it's like any type of crazy blockbuster type of thing. You're not going into it expecting Oscar worthy drama acting. Like it's a fun guy shooting dinosaurs movie. If you're expecting that, you'll enjoy it. It's worth seeing on the big screen. It's really beautiful. The CGI on it's great. There's maybe only one scene where a dinosaur kind of looks a little iffy. All the rest of it, I mean, it's not Jurassic Park level. Nothing's going to beat like that first movie. Somehow they nailed CGI perfectly at that time for doing fake dinosaurs. But they look really good in this movie. It was enjoyable. And then, yeah, we watched The Mandalorian this morning. No spoilers, but yeah, there's a redemption for an actor in it that I just love. I'm super stoked about, and I'm loving this whole season. Season 3 of Mandalorian so far has been fantastic. I love the changes they've made. I love the storytelling they've done. I love the stuff we've learned about certain characters. I did finish God of War Ragnarok, took Odin's punk ass down, and finished the story in that, which was just really good. Such a fun game to play through. And then, yeah, I decided to finally fire it up, and I'm about an hour and a half into The Last of Us now. So I got past the opening scene again the second time. I just deleted my original save file and I actually went through it. And now I'm to the point, like I just took out everybody at the docks and shot the guy and actually met Ellie for the first time, which I do like the fact that her intro in the game is she comes at you with a knife. It's like, motherfucker! Like, it's like, okay, that's kind of fitting. And so, yeah, it's interesting now having seen the show and like I know where the story's going, but playing through it is, of course, still different. And so, yeah, it's interesting. It's really fun so far. It's not the best controls of any game I've ever played, but it's more about the story than it is the actual gameplay anyway. So I'm just playing it through on easy to enjoy it. But yeah, I'm liking it so far, and just the way you can sneak up and strangle the hell out of people is just fun. I think I've only shot like 4 people so far. I've just strangled everybody. It's like I'm just turning my main dude into just a freaking ninja. It's like, no, everybody just gets grabbed and choked out, bitches. You're all going down. Willie, you're on mute.
Yeah, you're muted, Willie.
You know what the showrunner said of the on the show, right? The Last of Us. He said, "Remember, on our show, it means more things when someone dies because it's not just pixels on a screen."
Oh, is that what they said?
God damn! Why? Just shut the fuck up, dude. You're just ruining the good things that you're doing here. You're just ruining it. Just shut up.
But yeah.
Because, what's my screen made of when I'm watching live action? Oh, yeah, pixels.
Pixels. Yeah, still the same.
So stupid.
But yeah, it's fun. And then, yeah, so I'm trying to think what we got coming up. Yeah, still a game I'm playing, waiting to get back. I'm, like, still halfway through Uncharted 2. I've been playing that out in the living room, so I'll get back to that at some point. And then there's another... Oh, we watched a movie, Noise, on Netflix, which, not good. Would not recommend it. It was a weird, I think it was like Netflix Madrid or something, like Madrid, Spain. And then it was done with subtitles. It was one of those movies where you watch the whole thing and you're like, what happened? So yeah, it was just kind of disappointing. I did watch the first Paddington finally this week, which that movie was just purely enjoyable. So now I can finally watch the sequel. I've been waiting to watch that. And yeah, Nicole Kidman is this crazy chick that's trying to kill a talking bear. Is just hilarious. Like, that movie was so much fun. And then, yeah, I've been working on the minis. Like I said, I finished my one Blood Angel dude, which, yeah, he turned out pretty good. Got a little gold on his gun. If only my camera would focus on it. It refuses to focus on my mini. But, yeah, he turned out pretty cool. I got my second Stormcast Eternal all done up in gold. He's been dipped in the Agrex Earth Shade. So now I got to clean him up a little bit to get the shine back on the gold. But yeah, all the blue and the white's done on him. And then I finally, for the first time, been working on some flesh tones. I got this dude who's got this crazy ass kind of canopy around his back and then 2 huge teeth in front of his face. So like painting the flesh tones on his face has been a bitch because he's kind of hard to get to once he's partially put together. And I was only smart enough to keep his arms off, but he's awesome because he's holding a giant flamethrower. And so when it's all said and done, all of this, it was painted with an undercoat of white. I put a bunch of yellow on it. Now I'm going to add some orange and some reds and then maybe black at the very end of it. So I'll have a big old flamethrower on him. So yeah, he's been a fun one to do because it's my first figure I've done that has flesh tones. And so, I mean, it's definitely hard to see, but I got some pictures on my Instagram. Then yeah, doing the flesh tones on a head that's, that big is not an easy thing, but it's kind of fun practice. And well, it doesn't take that much paint to do it. So, At least this way, what the good thing about minis that paints last a long time. And yeah, I got myself a new handle, so you can actually like kind of hold it and then brace your hand, and then
nice.
do little tiny detail work. And so it's nice having that little handle there. And then I did get myself, I don't know if you can see it, but I got myself a second copy of my light. So now I've got the same light twice on my art desk. So yeah, there's one on the left and one on the right. And it's the same light, but yeah, now I've got light basically coming down like this on two sides, so that I'm not sitting there with light behind me and shadow on half of the character that I'm painting. So it's just working a lot better. And I actually did hang up. Let's see. Wait, no, other finger. That's right. I can't do backward stuff, I swear, after all these years. I actually hung up something above my art desk. That's my degree from Boise State in my BFA in illustration. So above my art desk, I now finally actually have my art degree. So I can look up and remind myself, like, no, I do know what I'm doing. I am trained for this. Let's do some painting and have some fun. And yeah, I've been enjoying the hell out of making these minis. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it now, because these ones I have here, once these guys are done, these are the last of them before I actually crack open my big box. And I've got my combat patrol of 19 Space Marines, and one of them is one of the like giant like mech dudes, which is just, for minis is huge. He's like 4 times the size of a normal mini. Like, it's a giant robot, and it comes with different arms. So you can put like tentacles on it, a giant hammer, a big sword, or 3 different types of cannons, I think. And then, yeah, I got the other dude, this crazy, the Dark Apostle, where, yeah, he's got his homie that all he does is carry a book. He literally has a book strapped to his back, and he's wrapped in chains. Like, these figures are just, they're so weird and so cool. And, yeah, it'll be awesome, because, yeah, once this is done, once I do my army of 19 there, my nephew's got an army ready for me to fight. And I found out my buddy Colin, who I used to podcast with, his brother-in-law just got him to play Warhammer for the first time. So I've got at least 2 people locally that I can go play Warhammer against once I get my army ready. And so, yeah, I'm looking to download me some new 10th edition rules once they hit the website, and then I'll be ready to play as soon as I get these 19 guys put together and painted. So, yeah, once I finish these couple, 1 or 2 more to be done, and then it'll be on to clipping and gluing stuff together again. Because, yeah, putting 19 figures together is going to take a while. And I've got some more primer, like, in my Amazon cart, because I'm going to try, there's a thing called, I think it's a Zetafil priming, where you prime the whole thing in black, and then you take white and you prime it from above, and you just spray paint white on the top. And so when you do that, then when you start laying your paints, like the undercoat area gets darker automatically, and the top areas stay a little brighter because they have white under them. And it's a way to do like a real simple, like, starting paint job. And so I might do that and slap some contrast paints on a couple of them just to speed up the process, which is why people do it, because you can do, if you have a dark underside on the figure, everything that's on top is got white on it, and then you just slap on a red contrast paint. The top of your figure is lighter, the undersides are darker, and it's pretty much good to go. You touch up your details in your guns, and you can throw them up on tabletop and not be embarrassed by them. So I may not take as long on some of these 19 guys as I've done on some of these individual figures.
Nice.
Because it takes a while.
Before tossing things over to Willie, I forgot one thing. I was also geeking the fuck out yesterday because they dropped the trailer for the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Once and Always special that drops in April on Netflix.
I knew you were going to do this, Chris. I knew you were going to interrupt to say that, because I was going to mention it too.
Oh, were you? I apologize.
New Power Rangers,
like,
huh?
Well, it's just a one-off special for the 30th anniversary where they're bringing back a bunch of the original cast.
Oh no! And now I realize that's kind of sad because they won't have the Green Ranger.
Well, he wasn't going to be in it anyways, is my understanding.
Yeah,
because they were filming prior to his passing. But I'm sure they'll have to say something to that
Tommy
effect.
died.
Well, I mean, they've proved in the trailer that part of the story is that Rita kills Trini, basically. And it's presumably her daughter that is going to take over as the saber-toothed tiger Yellow Ranger.
Damn, Rita Repulsa. Can't trust that bitch. She mean.
But it looks really cool. It's going to be their one-off 30th anniversary special, bringing back a bunch of old talent to do it. Former talent. I don't want to say old. I'm not trying to age discriminate. But for an 80s kid who grew up in the 90s, pretty cool moment. But that was something else I've been getting into. Willie was going to comment on it too. So, Willie, we'll let you finish up with what you've been getting into. And if you had anything else you wanted to add on the Power Rangers stuff, please feel free.
No, I'm not going to add anything to that.
That's fair.
What I've been getting to, I've been playing Deceive Inc. Finished up The Last of Us, and I'm not gonna lie, I really enjoyed it. Really, really enjoyed it.
Me too.
Everything except for the third episode was pretty much 1-to-1 for the most part for the game story. So that was nice. You see what happens, studios, when you buy an IP and you actually use the IP instead of just creating random bullshit. Uncharted. You see?
That's the difference between like a showrunner director trying to put their spin on it versus Frank Darabont buying, the rights to do Shawshank Redemption and The Mist and filming the script. You already had the script. There's a reason you bought it. Yeah, you don't need to change shit. If it's good, there's a reason it was good.
Yeah, Uncharted. I don't know what. Like they just got blindsided. Like, oh, we got Marky Mark in it. Yep. Fuck Marky Mark in this movie. No offense to Marky Mark. I like Marky Mark. He's not a good fit for Uncharted in any capacity. Maybe the villain. Maybe. But not as Nathan Drake himself. Not as Sully. Like, no. Whoever thought of doing that, you need to be fired. I hope you're fired from Sony. Get out of here.
Oh my.
No one needs you. You make terrible decisions. You're a fucking terrible person.
Wow.
Yeah, Mark. Whoever thought to add Marky Mark as Nathan Drake in the very first place? Why? Is it just because you needed to use Marky Mark and you said, let's throw him this? Is that why? Like, what is the reasoning? I need to know this. Because it's not for his acting skills or his action movie skills. No. He just still not a fit.
And it's not for star power either, since Tom Holland was coming off of two of the biggest blockbuster films of all time. Like, Spider-Man at that point, Tom Holland was way more popular than Mark Wahlberg. And Mark Wahlberg was coming off of Infinity? That movie was not good.
Tom Holland was an all right choice. I'm not going to lie. Still looks a little on the young side for Nathan Drake for what they were trying to go for, but it's whatever to me. Like, that's a whatever point I can get past. Still not a good one, but I can look past it.
Fair.
But yeah, Bella Ramsey looks great as Ellie. Joel, great as Joel, or Pedro Pascal, great as Joel. Yeah.
He's like the galaxy's best babysitter, man.
Remember, you're not a friend, you're cargo.
This is the way.
Let me see. What else did I do? The Last of Us, that. Yeah, let's keep it short and simple. Deceive Inc. That. And, let's just call. Oh, I did restart. City Skylines had a PS5 update, so I started playing that. That's pretty. It's always fun just to chill out, put on some music, and just go, yeah.
Nice.
Let me build my city.
Well, cool. Sounds like everyone's been getting into some pretty cool stuff. On that note, we are going to shut things down. A friendly reminder before we do that, we do stream live. You can go check us out over at www.geeks.live. There's a calendar of all the upcoming live events. And just stay tuned to our social media feeds for when the next live show is. Before we shut things down, you guys have any final thoughts for the people? For the people.
This show is brought to you by AI Everywhere. Please praise our Skynet overlords in the future.
I think we kind of proved that the AI can be helpful for figuring out these things, but not necessarily the end-all be-all for transitioning to our segments. I don't know.
I'm just saying, stop kicking robots. Eventually the AI is going to see all those videos, and it's not going to go well for us.
How many robots did you kick in the last month?
Have you seen those Dynamics, whoever Dynamics
Boston
videos?
Dynamics.
No. I mean you personally.
I haven't kicked any robots.
Because it sounds like you've been kicking robots. Chris, have you been kicking robots? Because I haven't.
I kicked a robot accidentally this week.
Uh-oh. Your Roomba?
My Roomba. I accidentally kicked it because I was getting coffee in the kitchen and not paying attention.
Did you pet it and say you're sorry?
No, I went, oh shit. And at least it wasn't a cat because I thought I kicked one of the cats by accident.
Uh-oh. You better sleep with one eye open.
Well, my bedroom is on a floor above the Roomba and it can't do steps, so I'm safe.
That you know of.
Yet
So far, it's the
is
only thing
keyword.
keeping us safe. Yeah.
Is
Stairs.
Keep me safe for now. That being said, we are going to shut things down. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining us. And our AI overlords haven't taken over yet. We are still victorious. Fuck you, AI. We win. Yeah. We sort of
This is the
did.
way.
We'll see you guys next week. Bye, guys. Thanks for listening to this brand new episode of the All Things Good and Nerdy podcast. Don't forget, we'll be back next Sunday live at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central over at live.atgnpodcast.com, channel 3 of the Alpha Geek radio app, and over at our network home at gonnageek.com/live. If you have any feedback for the show, please contact us atgnpodcast@gonnageek.com, on our hotline number at 304-806-ATGN, or even better, go to Twitter and send us a message at ATGN Podcast. The music you've heard in this show is produced by Kevin MacLeod and can be found at incompetech.com.